colored stars. 16. We now come to the very important subject of colored stars. These require considerable care in their preparation, the beauty of their performance depending entirely upon the uniform fineness, the intimate union, and the dryness of their ingredients. If you wish to make these colored stars with any degree of satisfaction to yourself, keep the various preparations which enter into their composition always ready for use. That is, in fine dry powder, preserved in well-corked or stoppered bottles. There is one chemical salt which requires especial care in keeping, on account of its deliquescent properties, that is, of its tendency to attract moisture from the air. And unless this salt, which is the nitrate of strontia, be thoroughly free from moisture when used, it will produce no effect at all, except a needless waste of chemicals. I must therefore tell you that the formulas which I am about to give you will fail most entirely in your hands, unless you are very particular in this matter of dryness. Over and over again have I been led to condemn formulas for colored stars and fires as useless or imperfect, for the sole reason that I did not then know how their ingredients were to be handled, and what care was necessary for the production of their intended effect. In the first place, I strongly recommend you to attempt to make no colored stars for rockets, except such as are made in the pillbox cases, of which I have spoken before. These pillboxes are made in the following manner. Procure a piece of straight iron rod, 12 inches long, and from 3/8 to half an inch in size. The usual size for this former is about 7/16 of an inch. Now cut some cartridge paper into strips about 8 inches wide and from 9 to 10 inches long. Paste these strips all over, and roll them round the iron rod closely and neatly. When this is done, remove the case thus formed from the rod without tearing or breaking it, and set it aside to dry. When dry, it will be very hard and stiff. It can then be cut by means of a very sharp knife into little lengths of half an inch each. These lengths are the open pillboxes into which your composition is to be rammed for colored rocket stars. In order to accomplish the filling of these cases with the least amount of trouble, procure a piece of stick of a convenient length and of such a size round that it will pass easily into the pillboxes. Next, take a small piece of quick match, about 1½ inches long, and pass it through the pillbox in such a manner that it may project beyond each end about half an inch. See Figure 31. You will be able to steady the pillbox while filling it by holding it by these 2 ends of quick match. The composition pressed into these boxes is always slightly moistened, and by this means, when once dry, will not be liable to be shaken out again. In making, however, any trials of your colored star compositions, for your own satisfaction, before making a large batch of stars, you had better press the composition in dry. By this means you will be able to see at once what their performance is worth. The fluid that I employ for moistening these colored compositions is a solution of shellac in methylated spirits of wine. As shellac enters into the composition of many of these colors, it will not be necessary to make your solution a strong one. It should be of the thickness of the ordinary spirit varnishes, such as photographers use for coating their negative pictures. The exact strength is not a matter of any great importance, as long as you do not make the solution too rich in shellac, for by doing this you will impair the purity of your color to some extent. Remember that you must make these compositions wet. A very slight moistening is sufficient to make them bind well when pressed into their cases. The first color of which I shall speak will be the red or crimson. It is in the preparation of this color that you must be most careful about dryness. Crimson stars. 17. The composition which follows is, in my opinion, the best for crimson stars. Chlorate of potash, 24 parts. Nitrate of strontia, 32 parts. Calomel, 12 parts. Sulfur, 6 parts. Shellac, 6 parts. Sulfide of copper, 2 parts. Charcoal, fine, 2 parts. This composition gives a magnificent deep crimson when burnt at night. Do not be disappointed if in your experiments in the daytime the color should not appear very deep. Remember that there are 2 kinds of colors in pyrotechny, and that beyond a certain point it is impossible to amalgamate their respective qualities. The first of these 2 kinds is the color which has a considerable depth of tint, but which has not much reflective or illuminative power. The other kind is that which has a very decided but not so deep tint, and which is capable of surrounding itself with a luminous atmosphere of color during its combustion. In fact, which has great brilliancy and power of illuminating objects. Now the last of these 2 kinds is the proper one to be employed for star purposes. We should never desire to produce a shower of dead-looking stars, however intense their color might be. It is also an ascertained fact that the color of stars always appears deeper when seen from a distance. Do not then be disappointed, I repeat, if the color appears somewhat weak when you are making a trial of your composition just under your eyes in the daytime. Now, with regard to the crimson star composition above, remember that I only say that it is one that succeeds in my hands. You may perhaps think it too rapid in its combustion, in which case you can increase the proportion of calomel, or decrease that of the chlorate of potash. The calomel has the effect of deepening the color, but at the same time of retarding the combustion, and of weakening the illuminative power. The shellac must be in as fine a powder as possible. It has the effect of producing a rich, thick flame, and also of rendering more sulfur unnecessary. It also enables the composition, after having been wetted with the above fluid, to harden into a mass tolerably impervious to moisture. The sulfide of copper is used for the purpose of giving a very slight bluish tint to the flame, and thereby of neutralizing any yellow that might impair the purity of the crimson, arising from impurity of the chemicals. You should keep all these ingredients ready powdered, dried, and sifted through your 40-mesh sifter, and then, when you require stars, you will have nothing to do but to weigh out the proportions given in the formula and mix them on paper with a spatula. The more you handle the nitrate of strontia, or any composition containing it, the moister it will become and the less effect it will produce. Therefore, do not think of mixing the ingredients till you are ready to make your stars, and have a convenient, dry, warm place in which to stow them when made. You can procure the things mentioned in the above receipt, and in fact those required for all the colored compositions, of Mr. Darby, 98, Regent Street, Lambeth. But in case you may think it desirable to prepare and dry your nitrate of strontia yourself, I give you the following directions. Procure a common earthenware pipkin, or still better, a glazed iron frying pan of a convenient size. Into this place your nitrate of strontia in rough crystals. 1 or 2 pounds will be sufficient to prepare at a time. Place the vessel on a clear fire, but do not make it too hot. There is not the slightest danger of explosion, as this salt cannot be induced to burn except in combination with other things. You must now boil, or rather stew, the crystals in their own water of crystallization. The heat will soon cause them to run into a thick, pulpy mass. When in this state, they must be constantly stirred, or upon the evaporation of the moisture they will resume a crystalline form. This you wish particularly to avoid, as your object is to get this mass into powder. Continue then to stir it with a stick or flat piece of wood until the moisture is driven off by the heat, and the salt remains in the condition of a white, dry sand. A few trials will enable you to perform this operation in such a manner that after it the strontia will be ready at once for use. If, however, enough stirring did not take place, you will find some fused lumps among your dry preparations. These must be pounded in a mortar and afterwards dried. The operation described above is very simple and does not take long to perform. No strontia can be used for colored stars or fires unprepared. If, after keeping the dried nitrate of strontia for some time, you find that it is again becoming moist, it may be re-dried, either in the vessel used above, or in an open dish placed in a well-heated oven. This operation is proper also for the preparation of the nitrate of baryta. For the solution of shellac, you will find the following plan a convenient one. Make a very strong solution of the resin in methylated spirit of wine, which shall be as thick as treacle. As you require your thinner solution for moistening colored star compositions, dilute a portion of the thicker solution with the methylated spirit to the strength required. The sulfur used in all colored compositions should be as free as possible from acid. Otherwise, when mixed with chlorate of potash, it may be dangerous. If you have any doubt about it, wash the sulfur in a solution of common potash in water and dry it gradually. The acid will be entirely neutralized by this plan. Never think of pounding sulfur and chlorate of potash together. They form a detonating compound which will explode with friction or percussion. The compositions that I here give for colors are perfectly safe when made as I direct. I have made colored stars from them, and placed these stars at the side of a fireplace till they have become so hot that I could not bear them in my hands, and I have subjected them to several tests, all of which they have stood well, and I think I may safely recommend them to you, as not at all liable to spontaneous combustion, or possessed of any dangerous quality. I must tell you, however, that they may be heated till they explode, but it is quite unnecessary and very foolish to expose them to any high temperature at all. In drying them, a good plan is to put them in front of a fire in a flat tin box, which will prevent any chance of their being ignited, and will at the same time keep them in a thoroughly dry atmosphere till they become perfectly hard. The box may be placed about 2 feet from the fire, so that it becomes moderately warm. In filling the pill-boxes with composition, put a piece of quick match through them, as directed above, and hold them by the 2 projecting ends of match. Let a short groove be cut in the side of the stick with which you press in the composition, large enough to allow it to pass the quick match without injuring it. Rose-colored stars. 18. I now give you a composition for producing rose-colored stars. Number 2. Chlorate of potash, 20 parts. Carbonate of strontia, 8 parts. Calomel, 10 parts. Shellac, 2 parts. Sulfur, 3 parts. Charcoal, fine, 1 part. The advantage of this composition is that it is not at all liable to suffer from damp in winter. The carbonate of strontia is a salt not deliquescent like the nitrate, and is, moreover, always to be had in a state of fine powder. The color procured by the above formula is not so deep as that which the first composition will produce, but it is especially beautiful when contrasted with an intense blue. If its combustion should be thought too rapid, less of the chlorate of potash may be employed. It is to be moistened with the solution of shellac. Green stars. 19. Our next color will be the green. I have especially observed that stars of this color always appear far more intense when burning at a distance than when close to the spectator. The color produced by the nitrate of baryta is never very deep where any great rapidity of combustion is required. It is, however, an exceedingly pretty tint, and is seen to its greatest advantage when used in contrast with a rich red. I employ the following formula for green rocket stars. Number 3. Chlorate of potash, 20 parts. Nitrate of baryta, 40 parts. Calomel, 10 parts. Sulfur, 8 parts. Shellac, 3 parts. Charcoal, fine, 1 part. Sulfide of copper, 1 part. The composition made according to this formula will produce a color which leaves nothing to be desired, if the several ingredients be only in fine powder, dry, and pure. It is not affected by moisture nearly so much as any composition containing nitrate of strontia. The shellac employed should be as fine as possible. And here let me remark that the reduction of shellac to powder is a process of itself. No coarsely powdered shellac will answer your purpose. Mr. Darby will supply you with it in fine powder, quite as cheaply as you can get it done elsewhere. Composition number 3 is to be moistened with the solution of shellac. The sulfide of copper you may have some difficulty in procuring. You are sure, however, to meet with it at the shop of Messrs. Bolton and Company, 146, Holborn Bars, London. But you must ask for the fused sulfide of copper, for there is a precipitated sulfide also, which is of no use to you. Do not use any of it that will not pass through your 40-mesh sifter. I add this ingredient rather as an improvement than as necessary to the composition. You may substitute for it, if you please, the preparation of copper which I am about to recommend in the composition for blue stars. If composition number 3 should be thought too fierce, try the addition of a little more calomel. Pale rose-colored stars. 20. The next formulas that I shall give are 2 which I have occasionally used and found effective. Their merit is that they possess a very intense illuminative power. Their color, however, is not so intense as that of those which I have already given. They have also the advantage of being very readily ignited, but care must be taken not to expose them to a high temperature in drying. The following are their formulas. Pale rose-colored stars, number 4. Nitrate of strontia, 8 parts. Chlorate of potash, 4 parts. Sulfur, 3 parts. Sulphuret of antimony, 2 parts. Take especial care that the nitrate of strontia used in this formula be very dry. 21. Pale green stars. Pale green stars, number 5. Nitrate of baryta, 16 parts. Chlorate of potash, 8 parts. Sulfur, 6 parts. Antimony, 3 parts. The compositions made from both these formulas give a pale color when seen close, but when falling from a rocket and viewed at a distance, produce a very charming effect, particularly when contrasted one against the other. They must be moistened with the solution of shellac. Golden yellow stars. 22. The next color that we will deal with is the yellow. The composition for this color is a very satisfactory one, on account of its having no tendency to deterioration from damp. There are many formulas used for this color directing the use of the nitrate of soda. This salt is, if anything, more difficult to keep dry than the nitrate of strontia. I therefore have abandoned it for another preparation which I believe to be as effective and thoroughly permanent. I recommend the following for golden yellow stars, number 6. Chlorate of potash, 20 parts. Nitrate of baryta, 30 parts. Oxalate of soda, 15 parts. Sulfur, 8 parts. Shellac, 4 parts. If it be thought advisable to give the stars made from this formula a tailed appearance, add 1 part of fine charcoal. The composition is to be moistened with the shellac solution. The stars form a beautiful contrast with those of an intense blue. Blue stars. 23. And now comes the last, and in my opinion, the most beautiful color of all. This is the blue. It has generally been considered a very dangerous color, but the following formulas I have always found thoroughly safe. Blue stars, number 7. Chlorate of potash, 8 parts. Sulfide of copper, 6 parts. Churtier's copper, 5 parts. Sulfur, 4 parts. Or, number 8. Chlorate of potash, 12 parts. Churtier's copper, 6 parts. Sulfur, 4 parts. Calomel, 1 part. These formulas give a rather pale but very brilliant blue. The compositions have the advantage of being very readily ignited. Purple stars. 24. If a deeper blue is required, use the following, which I shall dignify by the name of purple stars, number 9. Chlorate of potash, 16 parts. Churtier's copper, 12 parts. Calomel, 8 parts. Stearine, 2 parts. Sulfur, 2 parts. Shellac, 1 part. This gives the most intense blue that I have seen used in pyrotechny, and, with crimson or yellow stars, forms a truly magnificent contrast. Churtier's copper is a preparation discovered by a Frenchman of that name, and particularly adapted to the requirements of the pyrotechnist. It is made as follows. Take any quantity of common sulfate of copper, blue vitriol, and dissolve it in as little water as possible. Then take an equal quantity by weight of chlorate of potash, and dissolve it also in as little water as will hold it in solution. Mix these 2 solutions and boil them gently over a clear fire until the moisture is nearly evaporated. Then dry the green precipitate that remains by a gentle heat. When dry, treat it with strong liquor ammonia till it changes to a deep blue color. Then let it dry very gradually in a warm place. If this operation be properly performed, you will have a fine, very light blue powder, which is in reality a chlorate of potash with copper and ammonia. This is what I designate as Churtier's copper. Messrs. Bolton and Company will no doubt prepare it for you if you please. The stearine employed in the above composition must be in fine powder. It is easily reduced to this state by being treated in the same way as camphor or spermaceti. If a few drops of spirits of wine are used with it, it can be powdered in a mortar. Compositions number 7, 8, and 9 must be moistened, not with the solution of shellac, but with the gum water which have recommended to be used in making up the brilliant stars. Care, however, should be taken that for this purpose the gum water has not become acid by long standing. A very little of the fluid will make the composition bind well, and will enable you to form from it stars of great tenacity and hardness. I think now that want of variety is a thing that you can hardly complain of, but I must beg you to bear in mind the following particulars. The stars of which I have at present spoken are only for rocket purposes. They are not to be used for Roman candles. Another plan is adopted with reference to these, and their preparation will be described in its proper place. When these rocket stars are to be used, some of the powder recommended before must be strewed among them. You can make that mixture weaker, if you please, using 1 proportion of fine charcoal to 5 or even 4 of meal powder. The projecting ends of quick match render these stars much more certain of ignition than the ordinary cubic stars. It is advisable not to prepare your colored stars until you are ready to use them, because unless protected from damp in the most careful manner, they will lose some of their beauty, and you will thereby not be making the most of them. They may appear to you expensive things to prepare, but you must bear in mind that 2 or 3 rockets containing them are quite sufficient for any one exhibition, such as I suppose you will be likely to give. Remember that the red, green, and blue or purple stars may be used mixed with a very beautiful effect. The purple and golden, or purple and crimson, or rose, will also form excellent contrasts.